Hi, good morning. My name is Melissa Bumstead, and I represent Parents Against the Santa Susana Field Lab. It's hard to see, but that's my daughter right there, and these are some of the other children from my community who have suffered cancer. I started the Change.org petition for the SSFL Santa Susana Field Lab cleanup, which now has over 760,000 signatures. I'm here today because my community, very fortunately, was able to raise the funds to send me, and I realized my testimony is costing my community about $300 a minute, so I will keep my comments as brief as possible. I'll say quickly that I was disappointed that this is not a hybrid meeting, as it disqualifies many community members from sharing their public perspectives about the DTSC, which we are heavily impacted by, and we are also overburdened with medical costs. But my community has prioritized me being here today to have a voice for our community. The DTSC continues to staunchly uphold their claims that contamination from the Santa Susana Field Lab, which is one of California's most toxic and radioactive sites, does not come off site. And if it does, it is incapable of harming the residents, despite their own research, independent studies, and data from sister agencies. As I mentioned, my daughter's one of more than 80 children that we know of, and that's just self-reported data, that have developed exceptionally rare and aggressive cancers who are living only within miles of the site. Children and adults are being harmed still. Last week, I learned of 3 more children in my community who were recently diagnosed with exceptionally rare and almost always fatal cancers. Instead of prioritizing the cleanup, DTSC's most significant action for the Santa Susana Field Lab last year was securing $2 million, not for remediation, but to defend itself in court from my community's lawsuit. DTSC violated CEQA by approving a deal that allows Boeing to leave more than 90% of the contamination in place on site permanently near our homes. They intend to open it as a public park after. We hope that a ruling in our favor will give us again the complete cleanup that we have waited nearly 2 decades for. My community's voice is excluded from DTSC's decision-making. We come to all the hearings, we jump through every hoop, we cross our T's, we dot our I's. Still, we are not being part of a meaningful change within this cleanup process. Independent and peer-reviewed science is always dismissed in favor of studies paid for by the responsible parties, which protect profit over people. The Board of Environmental Safety has created a subcommittee to listen to us, and we are very grateful for their time. But the BES has minimal power to act. That is why our community is suing the DTSC, and that's why I'm here today, because we have very few opportunities to have our cries heard for justice and protection. So I would urge this committee to hold regular community hearings on DTSC reform. Once a year is tough for us. I mean, we do everything we can to be here. I was also told by our staff last year when we missed the meeting, they had no resources to create an email list for us to be alerted about these hearings. It was not put on DTSC or the BES websites, so we were very fortunate to find out about this meeting. Found out about it Monday. My community had raised the funds by Tuesday, and I was here. I would also ask that a hybrid participation option be included, because as far as I can tell, I see one other community member that I recognize who actually live near these contaminated sites. It is very hard for us to be here. And I would also ask that the Board of Environmental Safety's purview be widely expanded to give them the authority to actually make a difference. We like the Board of Environmental Safety. We feel that they have a good independent perspective on what is happening with the Department of Toxic Substance Control, but they have very little authority to make those changes, at least from my community's perspective. And one thing that would be incredibly helpful for my community and communities like mine is to require the DTSC to create a portal so that independent experts can submit scientific studies and reviews that have to be incorporated into the data set of the DTSC. For example, the Water Board Boeing has had over $1 million of fines for polluting the LA River. But even though it is a sister agency, the DTSC is able to say that contamination does not come off-site, even though we had lead 12 times the legal limits coming into the LA River from the Santa Susana Field Lab. The DTSC is acting as an independent world country. They do not There's very little authority to get them to change course in a meaningful way. They do not incorporate independent data, peer-reviewed data, federally funded data. They don't even incorporate sister agency data. So that is hard for me as a community member to try to get them to change course on these cleanup plans when they won't incorporate data except if it's paid for by the polluters. So a portal for independent data would be a huge, meaningful change for my community. Without these reforms, our children will continue to pay the price for DTSC's failures. Thank you for allowing me to speak.